She said she didn't need help. But she left the door open anyway. I told myself I was just being polite, dropping by to see if she needed an extra pair of hands. But when she looked up from the half-filled boxes, hair pulled loose and a faint line of sweat tracing her temple, I forgot every reason I'd come. Her name was Elise. Mid-40s, maybe. The kind of calm that doesn't ask for attention, but gets it anyway. The apartment looked half alive. Open drawers, the faint hum of a fan, the smell of lemon cleaner and dust. I stood by the door too long before she turned, smiled once and said, "You can hand me the tape if you really insist on being useful." Her voice was even, but something underneath it made my chest tighten, like she wasn't talking about tape at all. I stepped closer. She passed me the box cutter, her fingers grazing mine for a second longer than they needed to. I felt the heat before the thought. We packed in silence for a while. The kind of silence that fills with every small sound. Cardboard creasing, tape stretching, the soft drag of her sleeve when she reached across me. I noticed how careful she was with her things. Old books stacked spine out. A chipped mug she wrapped twice in newspaper before tucking it away. "You sure you want to leave?" I asked finally. She looked at the window, not me. "Sometimes you have to." That was it. No explanation, no invitation for more. Still, her voice lingered, heavy with something I didn't understand. When she stood to stretch, her blouse slid a little off her shoulder. I looked away too late. She caught it, the glance, and smiled, small and knowing. Not cruel, not teasing, just aware. "You've got that look," she said. "What look?" "The one men get when they're about to say something they shouldn't." I started, then stopped. My throat felt dry. She went back to folding a sweater, slow, deliberate. "Good," she said softly. "Keep it that way." It should have ended there. A polite thank you, a quiet goodbye. But every time I moved toward the door, something pulled me back. The way her hair caught the light. The sound of her breath when she lifted another box. At some point she laughed, low and unguarded, when the tape gun jammed. I found myself laughing too, close enough to see the faint lines around her mouth. They didn't make her look older. They made her look like someone who'd lived. When the last box was sealed, she leaned against the counter, watching me. The hum of the fridge filled the space between us. "Guess that's it," I said. "Guess so," she echoed, but didn't move. The fan kept turning. Outside, it had started to rain. The slow, quiet kind that makes the night feel closer. I picked up my keys, trying to ignore the weight in the air. "Well, good luck with everything." She tilted her head, eyes flicking to the door, then back to me. "You're leaving already?" I hesitated. "It's late." Her gaze held mine for a beat too long. "So?" Something shifted then, not in what she said, but how she said it. A small challenge wrapped in softness. The rain hit harder against the window. The lights flickered once. And when she stepped closer, her voice dropped low, almost like a secret. "The night's not over yet." The sound of it, that sentence, hung between us like static. Then came a knock at the door. The knock at the door turned out to be nothing, just the wind shifting against the frame. But by the time we realized it, the spell had cracked, and neither of us knew what to say. She laughed it off first. "Guess even the wind's impatient tonight." I smiled, but it came out thin. I should have left then. Every part of me said so. But she turned back toward the counter, poured 2 glasses of wine, and slid one across to me. No words, just that quiet, confident gesture that made refusal feel like a mistake. I stayed. She asked about my work, my plans. I tried to sound casual, but my voice gave me away. Too eager, too present. She didn't comment. She just listened, chin resting on her hand, the faintest smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. When I asked about her, she hesitated. "I was married," she said after a moment. "Was." The word hung there, final and unfinished. "He wasn't a bad man," she added, tracing her finger around the rim of her glass. "Just someone I stopped knowing. You live long enough beside someone, you forget what your own voice sounds like." I didn't know how to answer that, so I didn't. The rain had softened outside, a faint rhythm against the window. She looked at me then, really looked. "You're quiet," she said.
I'm listening.
Her smile deepened, almost sad. "Careful. That's how people get lost." We stood there in that strange closeness, not quite together, not apart. I caught the faint scent of her perfume, warm and floral, and it pulled at something in me I hadn't expected. Every time she moved, I felt it. The soft rustle of fabric, the shift of her weight, the brush of her sleeve against my arm. She didn't step away, but she didn't come closer either. I told myself it was nothing, the kind of nearness that happens by accident. But when her hand reached past mine for a box on the counter, her fingers grazed the inside of my wrist. Not a full touch, just a trace of warmth, enough to freeze everything else. She drew back quickly, as if remembering something she shouldn't have forgotten. "Sorry," she murmured, voice low. "Don't be." Our eyes met. For a heartbeat, it felt like the world had stopped trying to be reasonable. I saw something flicker in her expression. Not fear, not regret, but recognition. Like she knew exactly where this could go, and how impossible it would be to come back from it. She cleared her throat, breaking the silence. "You should go before I start asking you to move furniture that isn't even mine." Her tone was light again, but the distance was forced. I nodded, stepped toward the door, but before I could turn the knob, she said quietly, "You remind me what it's like to be noticed." I turned. She was leaning against the counter again, one hand at her neck, eyes soft but unreadable. For a long second, neither of us moved. Then she smiled, faint, almost invisible, and said, "Good night." I didn't answer. I just looked at her, memorizing the way the lamplight brushed her hair, the space between us that didn't feel empty anymore. And when I finally left, I could still feel the ghost of her touch on my wrist, like a secret I hadn't agreed to keep, but already did that I didn't see her for 3 days. I told myself it didn't matter. She was moving anyway, boxes packed, life sealed away. But every time I passed her door, I slowed down without meaning to. On the 4th night, I heard her voice through the thin hallway, soft, distracted, talking to someone. I almost kept walking, but then came the knock.
Mine.
She opened the door barefoot, hair slightly messy, holding her phone in one hand. "You again," she said, though there wasn't any real surprise in it. "Forgot to return the tape gun." I lied. Her eyes flicked down to my empty hands. "You're terrible at lying." "Yeah." She sighed, stepped aside.
Come in.
The apartment was half empty now, shelves bare, echoing just a little when the door clicked shut behind me. Only the kitchen light was on, a soft amber glow that made everything feel smaller. She turned her phone screen down on the counter. "That was my sister," she said. "She wants to know if I've told everyone yet. About moving? About disappearing." She smiled faintly. "She worries I'm running from something." "Are you?" Her shoulders tensed, then relaxed. "Not exactly." The pause stretched too long. I reached to help fold another box, needing something to do. Our hands brushed again, that same electric slip of contact. She didn't move away this time. Her voice dropped low. "You really shouldn't be here. Then why open the door?" She looked up, slow, steady, eyes searching mine. "Because you knocked." Something in the air tightened. Every word, every glance felt heavier than it should. She reached for a roll of twine, leaned in close enough that I could smell her shampoo. Clean, faintly citrus, familiar. Her hand lingered near mine, not touching, just hovering, like we were both waiting for the other to move first. Then a sharp buzz split the silence. Her phone lit up on the counter, a message previewed on the screen. "Tell me you're not staying there alone again tonight." She snatched it up, face unreadable, then flipped the phone face down. "My sister," she said again, voice thinner now. I didn't press. Couldn't. But she was different after that. Distant, quieter. Folding the same piece of paper twice, forgetting where she'd put the scissors. Her thoughts were somewhere else. Or maybe right here. At one point, she looked at me. Sudden, raw, unguarded. "Do you ever wonder what people would think?" "About what?" "This." I swallowed. Maybe they don't need to know. She breathed out, slow, almost a laugh. You say that like you're not young enough to still care. I'm old enough to know when something feels real. That stopped her. The sound of the rain outside deepened. Steady. Insistent. She stepped closer, until I could feel the warmth radiating from her. We didn't move. Didn't breathe. Her eyes flicked to my mouth for half a second. Then back. I felt her hand rise, almost touch my chest, and then fall back, fingers curling into her palm. I can't, she whispered. I know, but neither of us stepped away. The air between us pulsed. Not silence, not sound, something in between. She finally said, quieter, you make it hard to be sensible. And I, without thinking, said, good. We stood there, close enough for her breath to brush my skin. Close enough for every reason to walk away to disappear. Then someone knocked. Loud. Sudden. She froze. I turned toward the sound, heart pounding, but she didn't move. Her lips parted, just barely, and she whispered, barely audible, don't. The knock came again, and this time neither of us moved. The knocking didn't stop. 3 sharp hits against the door, heavy enough to make the frame shake. I stepped back, but Elise didn't move. She stood still, chest rising slow and shallow, eyes locked on me like the rest of the world had gone out of focus. Finally, she turned. It's fine, she said quietly, though her voice wasn't steady. She crossed the room, opened the door just enough to reveal a sliver of her face. I couldn't see who it was, but I heard a man's voice, older, deep, too casual. Didn't mean to bother you this late, he said. Just checking if you're still around tomorrow. I can help with the boxes. Her reply was calm. That's kind of you, but I'm almost done. He said something else. I couldn't make out the words. And then she closed the door, slow, like every second of delay mattered. When she turned back, her smile was faint and practiced. My landlord, she said. He's been helpful. The word landed wrong. Something in me twisted. I wasn't jealous. Not exactly. But the thought of anyone else standing where I was made my throat tighten. She saw it. Don't, she said softly. It's not what you think. Then what is it? She opened her mouth, but no words came. The silence after was heavier than anything she could have said. The air between us throbbed with everything unspoken. The choices we were pretending didn't exist. I took a step closer. She didn't back away. Elise, I said, and it came out rougher than I meant. You keep saying I shouldn't be here, but you keep letting me in. Her eyes flickered. You shouldn't say my name like that. Like what? Like you mean it. I reached up, slow, deliberate, and brushed a strand of hair from her face. She didn't move. Her breath caught, faint but audible. My hand hovered near her cheek. The air felt charged, alive. She leaned in, barely, just enough for her shoulder to graze my chest. My pulse kicked hard. This isn't supposed to happen, she whispered. Then stop it. Her lips parted. Her eyes dropped, then lifted again. You think I haven't tried? I didn't answer. Couldn't. My fingers brushed against her jaw, light as air. She closed her eyes for a second, as if bracing herself for something she didn't want to resist. The storm outside had returned. Rain hitting the windows, wind pressing against the glass like a warning. Elise, I said again, softer this time. Tell me to leave. She shook her head, barely. You already know I won't. The distance between us vanished. Her hand came up, resting on my chest. Just that stillness. Her touch burned through fabric, through reason. I'm too old to start something that ends in regret, she said quietly. Then don't let it end. Her eyes flicked to my mouth. Once, quick, but enough. We both leaned in, slow, inevitable. The space between us shrank to nothing. Then her phone buzzed on the counter again, loud in the charged quiet. She flinched. Neither of us looked away. And just before the sound stopped, she whispered low, trembling. If you kiss me, I won't let you forget it. The phone kept buzzing long after it should have stopped. She turned away first, pressing her hand against the counter like she needed to steady herself. The light from the screen reflected off the wine glass. Blinking, insistent, impossible to ignore. Maybe you should, I started. But she'd already picked it up. Her voice was low, controlled. Hey, no, I'm fine. No, he's just a friend helping me pack. The words were too casual, too precise. Each one a tiny blade. I stood there, silent, watching her turn her back toward me. She laughed once, thin, forced, then ended the call. When she faced me again, her expression was different. Not guilt, not shame. Something harder to name. You shouldn't have heard that, she said quietly. I didn't mean to. She nodded, eyes fixed on the floor. That was my ex-husband. I blinked. He's still calling? He doesn't like to let things go, she said. He thinks I'm confused. That I'll change my mind. And will you? Her eyes met mine then, sharp and searching. About him? No. About everything else. She trailed off, voice fading. The room felt smaller suddenly, air thick, corners closing in. You lied to him, I said softly. She frowned. About what? About me. Her breath caught. You're not my friend. I cut in. That's what you were going to say? She stared at me, lips parting, but no sound came out. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was loaded, trembling. She stepped back like she needed space to think, but her shoulder brushed mine on the way. My skin burned where she'd touched me. This can't happen, she said, barely above a whisper. It already is. She laughed once, short, hollow. You think this is simple? You don't know what people are like. They see an older woman with someone your age and I don't care what they see. Yes, you do, she said sharply. You will. Her words hit harder than I expected. I took a step closer anyway, close enough to smell the faint trace of wine on her breath. Maybe I just see you. Her face softened, then hardened again, a battle flickering behind her eyes. Don't say that unless you mean it. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. That stopped her. For the first time, her voice faltered. You don't know what you're asking for. Then tell me. She exhaled, trembling. I left because of someone like you. The words dropped between us like a confession she hadn't meant to make. What do you mean? I asked, pulse kicking. She looked up, eyes bright with something raw. I promised myself I'd never fall for someone who made me feel young again. Neither of us spoke after that. The hum of the fridge filled the quiet. Her hand twitched at her side, like she wanted to reach for me, but didn't trust herself to. Finally, she whispered, You should go before I forget why I stopped. I didn't move. She stepped forward, slow, deliberate, until we were standing close enough that her breath touched my chin. Her voice barely made it out. If you stay tonight, nothing stays the same. And for the first time, she didn't look away. She stood there, her words hanging in the dim air like smoke. If you stay tonight, nothing stays the same. The sound of the rain outside filled the pause that followed. It wasn't just rain anymore. It was a steady pulse, like the world was holding its breath with us. I could have left. I should have. But I didn't. Elise, I said quietly, stepping closer. Maybe that's the point. She shook her head, eyes lowering. You think you're ready for what that means, but you're not. I'm not a kid. She laughed once, soft but sharp.
No.
But you're still young enough to believe that wanting something is the same as being ready for it. Her voice trembled slightly at the edges. Not weakness, but fear. I could feel it between us, alive and fragile. I moved closer until we were almost touching. The warmth from her body reached me before she did. She didn't step back this time. Then tell me to go, I said. She looked up. Her eyes were glassy, not from tears, but from holding too much in for too long. You really don't make things easy. I smiled faintly. You don't make them simple. Her breath hitched when I reached up, my fingers brushing the side of her neck. Just a touch, slow and deliberate. Her skin was warm, her pulse quick beneath my fingertips. She closed her eyes. Don't. Say it like you mean it, I whispered. Her hand came up, not to push me away, but to steady herself. Her fingers pressed lightly against my chest, feeling the uneven rhythm beneath. "This isn't supposed to happen," she said again, softer now, almost pleading. "Then why does it feel like it already has?" That broke something in her. Her breath left her in a shaky rush. She leaned forward, forehead nearly resting against mine, our words melting together in the air. "I don't want to hurt you," she said. "You won't. You think you'll still believe that tomorrow? I'll take that risk." She opened her eyes then, and the look she gave me, tired, raw, unguarded, said everything words couldn't. The years between us, the rules, the fear, none of it mattered in that single shared breath. When she finally moved, it wasn't dramatic. Just a small shift, her hand sliding up to the back of my neck, her thumb brushing the edge of my jaw. The smallest motion, but it held the weight of everything unsaid. For a moment, we didn't move any closer. We just stood there, suspended, waiting for one of us to decide whether to fall or step back. Then she whispered, "If we do this, there's no pretending later." "I don't want to pretend." The space between us disappeared. It wasn't a kiss. Not yet. Just the warmth of her breath against my mouth, the soft tremor of her fingers curling into my shirt. And then, like some invisible signal passed between us, we both stopped. Right there, on the edge of something we couldn't undo. Her eyes met mine, steady now. "You really don't know what you've started," she said. "Maybe you do." The silence that followed wasn't awkward or tense. It was full, alive, final. We didn't move again. We didn't need to, because in that stillness we both finally understood. It wasn't about what would happen next, but that neither of us would ever be the same after this. The rain stopped sometime before dawn. I woke to quiet, the kind that doesn't come from emptiness, but from something that's finally settled. Elise was sitting by the window, one knee tucked up, hair falling loose around her face. She wasn't looking at me, just watching the light spread slowly across the street outside. The boxes were still there, reminders of everything unfinished. But for once, they didn't seem urgent. "You didn't leave," she said softly, not turning around. "You didn't ask me to." She smiled a little, eyes still on the window. "I almost did." "Why didn't you?" Her hand brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Because I wanted to know how it would feel if I didn't." I got up and joined her by the window. The glass was cool under my palm. Outside, the street shimmered wet and empty, a few drops still clinging to the railing. She looked tired, but peaceful in a way I hadn't seen before, like something in her had loosened overnight. "I kept thinking it would end badly," she said. "That people would talk, that you'd wake up and realize this was just a phase. And now," she turned toward me, finally meeting my eyes. "Now I think maybe I was scared for the wrong reasons." "Which ones?" She smiled, faint but real. "The ones that kept me from feeling alive." For a while we didn't talk. We just sat there, shoulder to shoulder, listening to the city waking up. Somewhere, a car started, a door slammed, a dog barked. Ordinary sounds. But everything felt new. When she leaned her head against my shoulder, I felt her exhale, deep, steady, releasing something she'd been holding for years. My arm slipped around her without thinking. Her fingers found mine, tracing small circles on my skin. "You know this isn't simple," she murmured. "I don't need simple." She looked up, eyes soft, searching. "You'll change," she said. "People your age do. And I'll still be me. Then I'll come find you again." That made her laugh. Low, quiet, unguarded. The sound filled the room more than words ever could. "God, you don't even hesitate, do you?" "Not with you," I said. Her expression shifted, something between disbelief and tenderness. Then she leaned in, pressing her forehead against mine. The moment held warm, calm, real. No grand promises. No declarations. Just the weight of her hand in mine, the steady rhythm of breathing shared between us. The rain began again. Soft this time, more like a curtain than a storm. She didn't move away. Neither did I. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Maybe the night's not over yet after all." I smiled. Then let's not waste it. And we stayed like that, quiet, close, and unhurried, while morning light crept across the floor, turning the half-packed boxes gold. For the first time, it didn't feel like something ending. Felt like something beginning. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?